At a time when the United States is demonstrating a typical example of a war of the future, it will utilize an Iranian general and international criminal, Qasem Soleimani, with a pointed strike, and our entire progressive community, led by the Kremlin elite, mourns the murdered terrorist Soleimani and sends a whole delegation of Putin's military to Tehran for the funeral of the murdered general, to express support, so to speak, to the country's leadership, and of course to lay wreaths sent from Moscow. Why? Let the Putin warriors get used to the Wanks now, apparently. They will often fly to different parts of the world where they will bury Putin's friends. Indeed, in the short term, one can expect technologically advanced operations against much higher-ranking criminals, including well-known bandits at the head of some states. And if not for the funeral of Putin's buddies, then on their own, so to say, 200 will leave with a load. Volunteers will sign up for refrigerated troops. So, at a time when the Americans are killing their opponents with high-tech and sophisticated toys, in the good sense of the word, our domestic does not dare to say the language. The ship, dating back to the Soviet era, and almost the only so-called Syrian express broke. Large landing ship, Orsk, was damaged due to power plants. What damage and who committed it is not fully known. But the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation has already confirmed the failure of BDK Project 1171, Orsk. I emphasize, they informed about this only on the third day, after the shameful passage of the Turkish base in tow, where the problems became obvious to everyone. They probably thought how it would cost itself to fix it. But no, not only that. It is rumored that it was a sabotage of members of the Orsk team itself. In general, it finally began to reach the sailors what was going on in Putin's Russia, and to whom they actually served. In this towing fleet, apparently, this Putin fleet without tugs is not a fleet. The Israelis also summed up the results of Putin's General J. Having passed a non-comforting verdict to the inactive Russian S-300 air defense system. So, in 2019, the Russian ZKK S-300 favorite proved to be in Syria, to put it mildly, nothing. The fact is that the S-300 did not repel a single Israeli attack in the year, nor did they attempt to defeat Israeli fighters. The official website of the Israeli Ministry of Defense published statistics on all military operations for the year. It was announced about 54 attacked targets in Syria. At the beginning of 2019 alone, 6 tunnels belonging to Hezbollah were destroyed. Statistics also showed that the Israeli army attacked 51 targets in the West Bank. None of the targets were reflected by the Syrian army air defense systems, including the Russian S-300s were suspiciously silent. And it turns out because they had nothing to say. In general, the next PRAR system turned out to be a dummy in practice. The non-participation of this weapon already suffers ridicule and criticism from a number of serious experts and potential buyers of more advanced Russian systems. There will still be roofing felts. And then it became known about the failure of the Kremlin multiport, who sold Turkey the S-400 air defense system. So, Turkey suddenly gave the United States the S-400 sold to it by Russia for research. It turns out that even on November 18, 2019, Turkey and the United States created an expert group that conducts an in-depth study of the Russian S-400 air defense system. As they say to you, checkmate to the Kremlin loser. A multi-plotter from the Turkish Sultan. But even your court experts told you, do not mess with these Turks, but no, you got in. And decided to play the Kremlin clever man on the contradictions between the USA and Turkey, but it turned out that you were deceived. In principle, nothing surprising. In a country where the Air Force is led by a tanker, an army is a fireman, the oil industry is a philologist, and the country as a whole is a pseudo-KGB agent, and in fact a head club, there can be no other result.